After being bullied by Chris Rock for a $40 million deal with Netflix, Will Smith is finally laughing all the way to the bank. That's right, Will Smith is the proud new owner of a comedy special titled Selective Outrage, and it's reported to be worth an incredible $40 million deal. It's been a while since we saw Will Smith, but with this new deal, it looks like he's planning to make a huge comeback. This isn't just any ordinary comedy special either, as the comedian Michael Smith and the infamous Slap were both included in the show. Not only that, but after digging deeper into Will's bizarre relationship with Chris Rock, it's clear that this is one of the biggest deals made in Hollywood. But how did Will Smith react to all this? Well, we've got the exclusive scoop right here. But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you can get updates of all of our upcoming videos. When the news first broke about Chris Rock's massive $40 million deal, the entire entertainment industry was buzzing. But it was Will Smith's reaction that really stole the show. "I'll sue him," he'd exclaimed in an interview with Entertainment Weekly. Everyone was left wondering what had happened between these two iconic actors. As the story unfolded, it became clear that Will wasn't too thrilled about being bullied into a deal. But what he didn't realize was that he actually got the better end of the bargain. Not only did he make a long-awaited comeback, but he also got paid handsomely for it. And the live stream, shot in Baltimore with no pre-recordings or edits, was a huge success that reached 190 countries. During the live stream, Chris Rock took the stage and dove headfirst into a number of hot-button issues in Hollywood. But it was his comment about the infamous slap that really got people talking. You know what people say? They say words hurt. Anybody that say words hurt has never been punched in the face, he quipped, wincing slightly as he admitted that the slap had hurt him more than he cared to admit. It's been almost a year since the infamous slapping scandal that rocked Hollywood and left millions gasping for air. And just when you thought the drama was over, Chris Rock decided to break his silence and spill the beans on what really went down at the Oscars. In a recent interview, the comedian opened up about the incident and didn't hold back. "Everybody knows, yes, it happened," Chris said with a grin. "I got smacked by this mother fear and people are like, did it hurt? It still hurts. I've got summertime ringing in my ears." For those of you living under a rock, it was during last year's Oscar ceremony when Will Smith, who went on to win Best Actor that night, slapped Chris Rock squarely in the face in the middle of the broadcast after he joked about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, having a bald head. The audience was left stunned and silent, and the incident went viral in minutes. Now, the reason why Jada is bald is because she shaves due to alopecia. Having someone make a joke of his wife might have enraged him, and after yelling at Rock from his seat, Will Smith walked on stage to smack him in the face. It was a shocking moment that nobody could have predicted. The comedian later declined to press charges, and the incident was soon forgotten. However, Chris got a chance to talk about the slap days later when he performed in Boston, but he said that he was still kind of processing what happened and that at some point he would talk about it. He also claimed that when he would eventually talk about it, it would be both serious and funny. Despite embarking on a world tour that took him across the globe, Chris Rock kept a tight lip about a particular incident that had left a mark on him. But in his new Netflix special, he finally opened up about the experience that had inspired the name of his show. "People love to play victim nowadays," he commented during the show, "but I'm not a victim. You won't see me crying on Oprah or Gail's show. I took that hit like Manny Pacquiao. I took it like a motherfucking champ." The incident that he was referring to was the infamous Oscar slap, which had rocked Hollywood and sent shockwaves across the industry. And while many had speculated about his involvement, Chris made it clear that he had nothing to do with it. "Will Smith practices selective outrage," he joked. "Everyone knows what the F happened, and everyone knows I had nothing to do with that shit. I didn't have any entanglements." Speaking of entanglements, Chris couldn't help but comment on the bizarre admission made by Jada Smith about her affair with rapper August Alsina. "Jada had the guts to tell Will straight up," he said, before adding, on an episode of her show, "She said my wife was having sex with my son's friend. What the F?" It was a strange experience for the internet to witness such a public airing of dirty laundry, with the couple even laughing about it. But for Chris, it was just another reminder that the world was a crazy place. Rock continued on with his usual charisma. "Everybody in here has been cheated on. None of us have ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television. She hurt him way more than he hurt me." The audience let out a collective gasp, wondering who could be the subject of this statement. Chris tried to defend himself by claiming that he had attempted to console Smith after the cheating scandal, but was unable to reach him. The crowd chuckled, thinking about how Smith must have dodged Chris's calls. As the conversation shifted to physical altercations, everyone referred to the man who had cheated on Rock as a bitch. Chris joked, "Who's he hit? Me," which sent the room into uproarious laughter. Rock then went on to express his support for Smith, saying that he had been a fan of his for years, but was disappointed by his recent performance in Emancipation. "I watched the movie just to see Will whooped," he quipped. The audience erupted in laughter yet again. Despite the lighthearted tone, there were also serious issues discussed. Rock brought up Meghan Markle's allegations of racism within the royal family, which had recently been making headlines. The audience murmured in agreement, impressed by Rock's willingness to address controversial topics. Chris, however, refused to let the conversation end without setting the record straight about his altercation with Smith. He insisted, First of all, I know you can't tell on camera, but Will Smith is significantly bigger than me. We are not the same size. The audience couldn't help but laugh at Chris' attempt to save face, considering the rumors that had been circulating about his alleged cowardice in the situation. Rock continued saying, you know, Smith may do movies with his shirt off, but have you ever seen me do a movie with my shirt off? I'm out here getting open heart surgery in a sweater. The audience laughed as Rock leaned into the microphone, clearly enjoying himself. And let's not forget, he added, Phil played Muhammad Ali in a movie. Do you think I auditioned for that part? No, sir. I played Pookie in New Jack City. The crowd roared with laughter as Rock delivered his punchline, and he could feel the energy pulsing through the room. It was moments like this that made him love doing stand-up. But as the show drew to a close, Rock's tone shifted. You know, he said, I didn't retaliate that night because I had parents who raised me differently. They taught me not to fight before white people. The audience grew quiet as Rock continued. And I'll tell you something else. I didn't retaliate because I didn't want to give Smith the satisfaction. I didn't want him to think he could push me around and get away with it. Rock dropped his mic and walked off stage, the crowd still buzzing with excitement. As he made his way to the green room, he couldn't help but wonder what Smith was thinking about all of this. Had he seen the show? Did he regret what he'd done? Rock wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going to lose any sleep over it. Meanwhile, Will Smith was still grappling with the aftermath of the slap heard round the world. He'd publicly apologized to Rock the day after the incident, but the weight of his actions continued to weigh on him. I was out of line. He wrote on Instagram, my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. But Smith couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. When he appeared on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, he spoke candidly about the incident. There's many nuances and complexities to it, you know, he said. But at the end of the day, I just lost it. I guess what I would say is you just never know what somebody's going through. Smith's voice grew more serious as he talked about the moment he slapped Rock. I know my problems shouldn't justify my actions, he said. But that punchline from Chris was too much for me to bear. I was going through something that night, and I just couldn't take it. During the interview with Noah, Will continued to delve into the impact that the events had on those closest to him, particularly his young nephew, Dom. Will was shattered when he learned that Dom had asked his father, Wendell, why did you hit that man, Uncle Will? It was like a punch in the gut for Will, because he had disappointed his nephew and set a bad example for the young ones in his household. Will realized that he needed to be a better role model and teach his loved ones the importance of being kind to one another. We just had to be nice to each other, man, he said in reflection about what he had learned from the incident. But it wasn't easy for him. Will opened up about his fear of conflict, which stemmed from his childhood when he watched his father beat up his mother. It was a lot of things, he admitted. Noah couldn't help but notice the pain in Will's voice as he spoke about the incident. He described the 94th Academy Awards as one of the best and worst nights of his life. Yeah, that was a horrific night. As you can imagine, Will added, clearly still grappling with the fallout. Week after the slap, the fallout from the incident continued to spread like wildfire. Will's resignation from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences came as no surprise to anyone. What was surprising was the length of the ban that the Academy handed down, a whole decade. Chris, on the other hand, was taking things in stride. He had been looking for ways to turn the humiliating slap into a punchline, and boy, did he deliver. He used the incident as material for his stand-up routines, and let's just say that Will got roasted harder than a Thanksgiving turkey. But it wasn't just verbal humiliation that Chris got out of the situation. In a twist of fate, he ended up bagging a cool $40 million. How do you ask? Well, it turns out that the whole incident had been caught on camera, and Chris was able to sell the rights to the footage for a small fortune. As news of the incident spread, fans and critics alike took to social media to share their thoughts. One user on Twitter summed it up perfectly. Chris Rock verbally slaps Angel Smith on stage. Funny jokes usually have an element of truth to them. Otherwise, it wouldn't be funny. If someone is making fun of you and your first response is to physically attack them, you're only revealing your own insecurities as a person. Despite the drama and the tension, there were still moments of levity and humor. Chris and Will even managed to joke about the incident themselves, with Chris quipping, I think Will was just trying to help me with my posture. He's a real health nut, you know. As the dust settled and the incident became a distant memory, one thing remained clear. The power of a good punchline is not to be underestimated. And as for Will and Chris, well, they may have gone their separate ways, but they'll always be linked by that fateful slap. And that's the story of the slap heard round Hollywood. What do you think? Was the ban and humiliation enough, or did Will get off too lightly? Comment below with your thoughts.